From swords and sandals to lightsabers and Death Stars, this is Rediscovering Classics. Welcome back to Rediscovering Classics. I'm your host, Roger Dodger. Today we will be discussing Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1955, In the Mouth of Madness from 1995, and Mr. Roberts from 1955. First up, we will do the Rediscovering Classics segment, and that's where I watch a film that I've watched in the past and enjoyed to see if it holds up or not. And the film this week is going to be Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956, starring Kevin McCarthy and Diane Winter. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a science fiction thriller in which a doctor, Dr. Miles Bennell, played by Kevin McCarthy, returns home after a short while to find that not everything is as it seems. He encounters people claiming their loved ones aren't their loved ones, and after that, strange occurrences start happening all over town. It's a well-shot film based off of the 1954 Jack Finney novel. The film I always loved because it gives you that uneasy feeling between the music, the set design, the camera work, the scenes. Rather, it's a action scene where they're running from the monsters, or rather it's just a investigation scene. It is so well shot and so wonderfully executed. My only critique of the film is that I have never been fond of the bookends. I understand why the studio put them there, and I understand why they exist. I've never personally been fond of them. I was always more partial to the way the book ended, or later the way the 1978 remake ended. So, one thing that I always take into account when watching these science fiction films from this time period especially is that this is a very serious, straight-laced film. It's not teenagers from outer space. It's not trying to be more than what it is. It's not relying on any goofy or funny elements. It is existing purely more like a paranoid thriller and less like a alien invasion movie. And that adds to the effectiveness of the story. In fact, when this movie came out originally, it was billed with The Indestructible Man, which was a Lon Chaney feature. It's got a very hokey premise, and it is a very hokey film. And well, I have an appreciation for the B movies like The Indestructible Man and Teenagers from Outer Space. I love it when the science fiction films try to be more than that, and they try to explore the darker side of the genre. The first time I saw this, I was probably 6 or 7, and it left me with that sense of unease that you're supposed to feel from a thriller like this, or from almost like a horror film. And so adding that makes it feel very elevated. Kevin McCarthy plays a wonderful job playing Miles Bennell, and Dana Winter playing Becky Driscoll. One of my favorite performances in the film, though, is King Donovan playing Jack Belushak, because he is the original catalyst for Miles to really get into everything. And every scene he's in, you can see the fear, you can see the dread, you see the confusion. And that's rather in his house watching this body take shape, or at the cookout the night the entire town starts hunting them. You really see the fear there, the unease, even though they're having just a wonderful time. Of course, you can't talk about the film without talking about both Don Siegel, who was the director, and Walter Wanger, who was the producer. Both did such a remarkable job with this film, with the source material they were given. It was when the studio came in and the studio added the bookends and made them reformat, and the film is really effective in what it does without being overly hokey like other films of the time. So when it comes to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I would say yes, absolutely. Check it out, watch it. If you're into film, watch it. If you're into paranoid thriller films, watch it. If you're into sci-fi films, watch it late at night with the lights off and just have a wonderful, wonderful time just delving in and experiencing this film for what it is for the time. Now we move on to a segment I call Rediscovering Modern Classics, where I watch a film from the late 70s, 80s, or 90s, and a movie I've watched before and rewatch it to see if it's worth a look. And this week we have In the Mouth of Madness from 1995. It's a horror film starring Sam Neill, Julie Carmen, and Jurgen Princhow. And it is based off of the works of H.P. Lovecraft, who was an American novelist and wrote the Cthulhu's mythos, Call of Cthulhu, Dunwich Horror. The reason I love this film is because there are very few adaptations of Lovecraft's work. There's the HBO Max series, there's the film Dagon, there's the film The Dunwich Horror, starring Dean Stockwell, which is another excellent movie. And I believe there's a Nicolas Cage movie, Color Out in Space. He wrote so much more than those 4 stories that I love watching them because you get a little piece of Lovecraft. And this does a wonderful job of not just delving into one of Lovecraft's stories. It's kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of his stories and his overall theme of that cosmic horror vibe. In the film, Sam Neill plays insurance investigator John Trent, who is sent to investigate the disappearance of Sutter Kane, who has disappeared right before sending his publishers a new copy of his book. He takes along with him a agent of the publishing firm, played by Julie Carmen, and they locate Kane in a town in which his books are based, called Hobbs End. And when they get there, they find Kane along with Kane's books coming to life. It's a wonderful tale full of suspense and mystery and a little bit of horror. Directed masterfully by John Carpenter, who did the music as well as he so often did. This is one that you will not soon forget because it's great, I think, today, because it delves into almost the idea of that toxic fandom. When does a fandom become too toxic? And what are possible side effects of that? And that is a great underlying theme in this film, I think. And when I watch it, I love it. I love the lights. I love that you don't really see the creatures real well in it. I love the idea of this cosmic, undefeatable, great being who is just evil down to the core. And I love that it's taken from the perspective of just your everyman who doesn't believe in it, who doesn't think that any of these books could possibly be real, and they're so frequently citing that this couldn't possibly be real, and that this isn't how reality works, and his position on that is very forced throughout the film to change and to adjust if he wants to survive this entire ordeal. So overall, Mouth of Madness, it's a fantastic horror film that didn't get enough love when it came out. It is now a cult classic, with studios such as Scream Factory and Arrow Video doing fantastic remasters of it. I'd say pick up either one of those. And I just love the overall aesthetic of this film. I love how it looks now, and I think it's really held up, and it's definitely one that you guys should check out. Finally, we come to Discovering Classics, and that is where I watch a film that you guys either throw up on my Instagram, Reddit, email, comment, and I watch. The only difference between this and the other film I've done is I've never seen these films. So today, we're doing a recommendation from a friend who recommended Mr. Roberts from 1955. I'd never seen this film before, but it's got many names that I'm familiar with. Henry Fonda, William Powell, James Cagney, Jack Lemmon. All are featured within this film. This was William Powell, who played the Thin Man's final film role, even though he lived until 1991, I think it was. But this tells the story of a submarine crew who have been stationed on the Bucket, which is a cargo ship that helps ensure that the various military vessels in World War II are getting the necessary cargo, medicine, food, supplies that they need throughout the war. Henry Fonda plays the titular Mr. Roberts as he tries to keep this submarine full of men happy as well as busy, because they are trying to make mischief for him. And that is at the behest of the ship's captain, played by James Cagney, who, while he understands Mr. Roberts and he understands the necessity for him, he feels that he is a little too loosey-goosey with the men and with his authority. And the film is Henry Fonda and James Cagney playing wonderfully off of each other as two men who don't want to be around each other, but find it necessary to continue to supply the troops. Mr. Roberts longs for active duty, and every week is writing letters to plea to get him off this ship. But there are so many hijinks. There's a shore leave sequence that is just so funny and so much fun to watch. There are little nuances throughout and comedic timing from all around. Even Cagney, who was big into gangster movies, does a wonderful job playing this disgruntled, antagonistic submarine captain. Jack Lemmon plays Mr. Roberts' bunkmate, who is always trying to get out of work and do as little as possible, much to the chagrin of Mr. Roberts. And the way they play off each other adds a very, very unique element to the film, and one that I'm quite fond of. William Powell plays the ship's doctor and Mr. Roberts' closest confidant. And William Powell in this role is as fantastic as he ever is. I am a huge fan of William Powell and the work he did in the films he gave to us. Regardless of the hard life he lived, he always came in and gave 100%. And I really love that this shows a very accurate depiction of how close you are to everybody when you're in such a confined space, when you're kind of just out in the ocean as part of a military unit, as part of a team. And there's one scene that in particular I will always remember, and that is when a shipmate collapses and the other shipmates ask if they can take their shirts off because it's so hot down there, and Mr. Roberts says yes, even though the captain is staunchly against it. And that is one of the points of contention between Mr. Roberts and the submarine captain. But masterfully shot. The score is wonderful. The hijinks and the situational comedy of the film is highly enjoyable. And I feel like there's a lot of heart and soul in this film, and an ending that will sit with you long after the credits roll. Overall, I would definitely recommend Mr. Roberts. Thank you for joining me today on Rediscovering Classics. So overall, I would recommend all three of the films we watched today: Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956, In the Mouth of Madness from 1995, and Mr. Roberts from 1955. Thank you for spending time with me today. Until next time, like the video, subscribe, don't forget to ring the bell, because as we know, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. But most of all, rediscover something classic. Thank you and good night.